What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite bingo games that I've ever played. And, of course, I haven't played all of them for sure, and I certainly haven't even played a small percentage of them. But of the ones that I've played, this one has a special place in my heart, mainly because of the potential for extra earnings in replays. And that's Sun Valley. Sun Valley, as I've mentioned multiple times in off-the-cuff remarks, has a beautiful cabinet stencil. And the theme of the artwork is girls in bathing suits skiing, which makes a lot of sense, but hey, they look good doing it, I guess. So, Sun Valley has triple deck scoring, which means that it's got red, yellow, and green odds, and different orientations of lines in the bingo card in the backglass to tell you where you're scoring. So, for example, I've never mentioned this before, but green starts with the number 16 in the center and fans out in all directions, up, down, left, right, and diagonally, up and to the left, up and to the right, and down. Red runs on the upper line all the way across horizontally, and on the right-hand side all the way down vertically. It also runs on the second line vertically, and the second line from the bottom, or the next to the bottom, horizontally. Yellow is the bottom line horizontally, the leftmost line vertically, the second from the rightmost line vertically, and next to the top horizontally. And Sun Valley is one that has the magic squares feature, but it's also got the magic lines feature. And what's beautiful about Sun Valley in particular is that you can move every single number on the backglass if you have the feature up to F lit. Now, another interesting thing is that as an older machine, not incredibly old, but older than, say, Bounty, it's a late 50s machine, it has a knocker installed, and the knocker goes off every time the machine awards an odds jumper a feature, which is pretty cool to hear in person. I, for one, ever since I was a little kid, I was trained to love that sound of the knocker going off, so that just brings up all the nostalgia and so forth that I have built up around pin games in general. So, with Sun Valley, which was put out before Pick and Play, so you just have the one red button on the left, you have to wait for the machine to award you. Now, the only time I've ever played it was at the York show last year, and it was Jeff Lawton's machine, and of course it was running in top-notch condition there, and I was pretty much swinging between that and roller derby right beside it for most of the show when I wasn't checking on my own machine or checking out some of the other games that were there. There were some really good games there last year, and there typically are, but Sun Valley was a standout for me. So, aside from the really phenomenal cabinet stencil on Sun Valley, and the beautiful artwork on the backglass and the playfield. There's also that really engaging gameplay. So when the machine randomly awards you your mystic line, or magic line, excuse me. It's not a mystic line, it's a magic line. When it awards you magic line F and allows you to move every single number on the backglass, it's pretty cool. It's also got a time tree, and getting the after fifth lit means that you can move any number on the backglass at any time during the game, which is pretty liberating. Beyond that, it's got up to 3 extra balls, which add, an extra, just one more button push element to the game. So this game has 2 buttons on the front of the cabinet. It's got the red button, which basically plays for scores and features and starts a new game, and then the yellow button, which plays for extra balls. On the foot rail, it's got 6 different buttons, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And A, B, C, D, and E correspond to magic squares on the backglass, and F is the magic line. Now, A, B, C, and D are in the typical magic square orientation, and magic squares were normally rotated around in a circle. So if you had, for example, the number, let's say the number 9 in the upper left, and you pushed the A button, assuming that you had the feature lit, it would move 9 over to the right 1 position, and it would move the number that it displaced, which in this case would be the number 1, it would move that down, and the number in that place would move over to the left, and the number in that place would move into 9's original position. And you could move all the way in a circle. It's really cool to watch. It's a neat, mechanical effect, backbox animation. And you could do that in 4 different quadrants, A, B, C, and D. So that makes up 16 different numbers out of the 25 on your bingo card. Now, the last magic square setup is E, and E is the bottom row and the first 4 numbers in that row, and basically they just hop along. They move from one to the next to the next to the next column, and then they wrap back around. And column F, which is the far right hand column, is your magic line, and so that moves up and down. As I say, one of the really fun things about the game is if you have your features racked up all the way, then it's going to make it easier to score in multiple colors off of one game. So in your best scenario, you're going to have your features lit up to F, with your time tree lit up to after 5th, and your odds hopefully racked up fairly high. But as this is a random award only, there's no guaranteed extra steps by pushing the blue button, because there's no pick and play. You're left with what you can do. But if you can position all the numbers so that you have 5 in a row, whereas before maybe you only had 3 in a row, that's pretty phenomenal scoring possibilities. And part of what makes it frustrating is when you have shot your 5 balls, you've got this great feature lit, and you've got your odds racked up pretty high, and you still can't make a winner. That seemed to happen to me fairly frequently. But the game is just phenomenal. I've really enjoyed playing that, and there's no other bingo that I've played that's quite like it. Now, there are some sister games to it.
For example, Big Time or Beach Time, and even Showtime, but Big Time and Beach Time allow for moving all of the numbers on the backglass. And the artwork on Sun Valley is just a standout for me.
But like Showtime is probably the closest sister game, and I've actually worked on a Showtime, but it's not the same because it didn't have the magic line F. So again, my time with Sun Valley was limited. I only played it during one weekend of my life, but I really hope to meet up with it again at some point and maybe even add it to my collection, because it's certainly a keeper from an artwork perspective, but beyond that, from a gameplay perspective, there are so many ways that you can win on it that I don't feel like I would ever be through with the game. Assuming that the game was set up in its normal default position and set up to take money, that would be right in my wheelhouse, because you have to measure how much money you're putting in versus your potential payout. So if it takes you $1 worth of nickels 20 to light Magic Line F, but your odds are still down at the beginning, well, that tells you a couple things. First of all, you probably have just gotten on the machine after someone else has won an awful lot and bumped that reflex unit up. As I've talked about before, that forms the auto-portioning circuit in the game, and if someone gets on and wins a whole bunch of credits, then it's going to make it more difficult to light features and scores next time. So if all that isn't enough, Sun Valley also had a feature that would light randomly, where if you landed 3 inline in the green, it would score as if you had landed 4 inline. That's a pretty nice feature, and I don't remember this ever happening, but maybe it's just my terrible ability at playing the game. Some bingos had something called a bally hole, and the bally hole was typically the hardest to shoot hole on the playfield, in this case 16. It's right in the center of the playfield, and there are an awful lot of things that try to block your ball from going into 16. Well, if you happen to land in 16, it'll award you the first extra ball automatically, and a feature that will award you green 5 in a line if you score a ball in each of the corners of the bingo card. Now again, I don't remember that, but hey, my memory's not perfect. And it's coming up on a year ago since I laid hands on it, so this information is cobbled together from a mixture of memory and Jeff's book, as well as Phil Hooper's technical bingo website. Really, what more is there to say? It's a fantastic game, and definitely a great entry spot. If one comes up in your area, I'd suggest snapping it up. It's a great game to learn on, I would say, and a great game to play. It's a single card. It's got moving numbers, but every single number moves. There is a learning curve associated with those moving numbers, as I've talked about before. And I think my new setup of moving people from ticker tape to the more complicated moving numbers games is working well for any bingo heads out there. So,
you start with the easier to understand games and move to the ones that have moving numbers, and that, I think, makes a difference in people's understanding. But still, your main goal is to get 3, 4, or 5 in a row, and it doesn't matter which color you get them in, except to you, the player, because you may have really low odds in one color versus another. So, again, I would snap up a Sun Valley in a heartbeat. One just has to come along that is in my price range and fixable, and, I'll be all over it. And then I need space, but that's another discussion. Well, thank you again for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com. And you can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter, on our website, foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.